Welcome back to our weekly coaching interview with head coach Damon Floyd of the Brad Center Bears. And as always, our interview is brought to you by Cleveland Collision Center, 2901 Water Level Highway. See them for all your automotive repair needs. Coach, last week, a wild and crazy game here at home, a homecoming game. We beat William Blount 49-21. A very long game due to all the penalties being called, and they attempted over 40 passes, many of which were incomplete. But it doesn't matter at that point. It's a region win, a big win, and you'll take them any way you can get them, I suppose.
Oh, yeah, we'll definitely not complain about a win. Thought we had a lot of really bright spots, and then obviously, some negatives there with a lot of face masks. We had a lot of face mask
6
penalties.
of them, I believe.
Yeah, and, that's something, technique and tackling should fix those, and that's, we work tackling just every day in practice, and it's been, it's going into game 9, so you hate to make those mistakes, but it's our kids are giving good effort. Just got to be a little bit lower on our tackles.
Well, and with those face masks, it's not a judgment call. It's an observed call there. We're averaging over 43 points per game. That is 5 points better than any team in Bear history. I mean, it's just, can we continue at that pace? I hope we can, but does that surprise you? We're doing this over and over and over?
It does. You hope to have games like that throughout the year, but week after week it is surprising, and it's something we definitely hope continues, and we're definitely going to need a lot of points, the next couple of games, and, in the playoffs, you got to score as many as you can, obviously. So it's been a bright spot for us, and, hopefully we can continue that.
Well, we seem like we like to score long and quickly. Last week, 7 touchdowns. All 7 touchdowns were outside the red zone from the 25 on out, and some of them were a lot longer than that. Scoring quickly like that is great to score, but is there a downside? You touched on this a little bit in our post-game interview.
There's been lots of times, when we get over there and watch our huddle sideline, we're watching our defense from the previous series and trying to make corrections, and, as soon as you sit down, sometimes it seems like we're right back up on the field. So the defense is not getting a whole lot of rest, but like I said, we're not going to complain about scoring fast. But it does put your defense, we played some long games defensively, a lot of snaps, and it's kind of the case Friday, but can't complain about it. And, if our offense is scoring 49, 50 points, then we'll definitely take it.
I guess it's a lot of fun to watch a game like that when you're just lighting up the scoreboard like that. And fans really get into it. I know it's a very emotional, exciting time. Going back and looking at the game, I watched the replay, and it's like we were up 14-7 in the second quarter, late. Bearden was driving. All of a sudden, a pick six, Cam Creighton. That, to me, if there's a turning point in the game, that seemed to really fire us up and deflate them, because you're going into halftime at 21-7 rather than 14-7. A lot of difference in the score. A one-mistake game at that point,
Yeah, and Camden Creighton, man, I tell you, I love that kid. He has worked his tail off in the weight room for the past 2.5 years now. He's a junior. Undersized linebacker, but he reads his keys. We can make an adjustment with him on the sidelines, and that's what happened. William Blount figured out what we were doing defensively, which we were playing a lot of man coverage and stacking the box to stop the run, and we were giving up the short passes early, and they were taking it, but we felt like as long as they just continue to throw the short pass, we make a tackle, it's going to be hard for them to drive the length of the field. And then as that started happening, the score kind of started changing. We were up. They had to kind of change their game plan, and so we started bumping our linebackers out a little bit. And so that's a credit to Camden of listening and understanding the game plan, understanding what's going on, reading his keys, and then being in the right spot. And, they kept throwing the little slant route, and then Camden read it, and picked it, and then took it to the house, which is huge. Anytime your defense scores, and that's big, and our defense needs that. Our guys, I like watching a play like that and watching the other 10 guys. What are they doing on defense? And I love the fact that Javon's running as hard as he can to get out there with Camden, so he can make the last block to make sure Camden scores. So really great team effort, but Camden deserves a lot of credit, not only for that play, but all season long. I think he had 11 tackles too.
Did he?
I think he had 11. So he's playing really well right now.
Well, Tucker Steele's our leading tackler still, even though he's been out of game, and Camden's right there with
probably Cam Arrowwood.
Yes, Arrowwood. That's the 3. They've all got more than 50 tackles, 50 hits apiece there.
Yeah.
And you're right about them. All they passed all night long was out in the flats, left or right, most to the right side, and we picked up on that pretty quick. And I know you guys picked up on that. One thing I didn't understand with them, why would you single cover Trey Curry? I'm glad they did, but man.
I guess you can ask that question, but then we got other weapons that they've seen when you double trade, and other guys are going to make plays. So it's kind of pick your poison right at this point. And, like I said, it takes us a little bit, maybe a series 2, to figure exactly how they're going to play us, because everybody plays a little bit different. They have their own philosophy, so you don't want to pressure things and make too many mistakes early. But we were glad to see single coverage, so we got Trey vertical quite a bit. But a lot of credit, once again, goes to our offensive line for giving Javen time. Javen's making the correct reads. Our other receivers are still continuing to run routes, make huge catches. And I think every receiver had some big catches Friday night. And, of course, Ricky ran the ball real well.
Yes,
and
he did
that was good.
very
I think he
well.
had over 150 yards with around 10 touches. So total team effort and offensively, when we're clicking like that, it's hard to stop.
Well, we had 562 yards of offense. They have 298. To me, that's not double. Let's get in close to double. But, man, our offense is on fire, but our defense, they've given up some points. But, boy, they came through. I think we had another pick with Aiden McClary Friday night, if I recall right. And they're doing the thing they need to, sort of bend but don't break at times. But and another consistent guy, we talk about him every week, seems like Isaac Vaughn, 7 out of 7. And he's perfect on the 7 touchdowns. And he was telling Joe Kent, said, man, we got to get 8 touchdowns. I got to tie that record. The record is 8, and he could tie it. But that's a lot of touchdowns, obviously, but it depends on the offense. But, man, overall, I think the game was really good for us, especially a region win against William Blount coming off the Maryville loss. Let me ask you this. I was going to ask you in our next segment, but I'll go ahead and ask you now. We have 7 teams in our region, and we're the odd man out because everybody else is at region matchups this week. Would you rather be playing a region game this week, or is it nice to step outside the region and place a non-region foe? Or does it matter?
Well, I think I like the way the schedule's falling. I mean, it's week 9, so we've got a lot of bumps and bruises and injuries, as other teams do. But Soddy-Daisy's been one of our opponents that we've played for a number of years. So it is out of region, but it's not a rivalry game, but we know each other well. And anytime you play, I mean, you want to go out and compete and win. So I like the fact that we do have a break, and we've gotten all of our region games taken care of, obviously, except for one. So I don't know. I guess if you had a preference, I don't guess it matters either way. As long as we're competing, that's all we really care about. We just want to go out on Friday nights and play.
Well, it should be a fun game this coming Friday night. We'll take a look at that game when we take this break, though, for Cleveland Collision Center. And we'll return here on the Bear Network. We are listening to our weekly interview with Coach Damon Floyd. Back with our weekly interview, Coach Damon Floyd, brought to you by Cleveland Collision Center. Looking at last Friday night, we get to win over William Blount. Soddy-Daisy goes to Ray County and beats Ray at Ray 14-7. Did that game surprise you that they won that, or?
Not really. I knew it'd be a tight ball game. Well, Soddy won the region last year. Even when Knox Catholic was in there. So, and we got a lot of film on Soddy, and I think you've seen it since Justin Barnes has been there, which is a friend of mine. He was a college teammate of mine, so I have a lot of respect for what he does. I think he's probably right up there with Maryville, Derek Hunt of offensive mind-wise. He's as smart as they come.
Really?
He knows how to attack a defense. Yes, and I think you've seen it through the years. They've gotten better and better offensively. His nephew's the quarterback, and so they're really on the same page of what they want to do and how they want to attack a defense. But you turn on film, I tell you this about Soddy. They're a lot like us in size-wise, defensively anyway. They're not the biggest, but, man, they're tough kids, and they play extremely hard. And we all know Ray County's offense, it's tough to defend, and the way they block, it's tough to get off blocks and make plays. Those Soddy players, man, it's tough. They're just tough, hard-nosed, physical. They do everything that you can tell. They do everything that coaches ask. So a lot of respect for what they're doing.
So you're expecting a dogfight down there Friday night?
I don't think there's going to be any doubt. We've had them before with them.
Yeah.
And like I said, I mean, we've got our work cut out for us defensively just because of it's not what all they do, but it's how well they execute it. And it's not a long list of formations and plays like we've seen. They run 4 formations, plays. Handful of plays, but they attack you different ways. They're going to see what you're lined up in, and so we're going to have to show some different fronts and coverages, and we can't just line up in the same thing and play. And then, defensively, like I just talked about with Ray County, they're going to get after you. I mean, they're going to get to the football, and they're going to make tackles, and they play extremely hard.
Well, you mentioned Isaac Barnes, their junior quarterback, who's the nephew of Justin Barnes, the head coach. Is he the main weapon, or is Landon Maynor, who's a great running back, great receiver? They've got some weapons. Who worries you the most on that team? Those 2 guys, or?
Well, they got a receiver too, number 3. I can't think of his name. They like to get the ball in his
Reese,
hands.
I believe.
And
Reese.
he's made some plays, but it's a combination of those guys. I think Barnes executes the offense and puts them in the right play, and they run a lot of RPOs. So he's the one that's making the decisions. But Maynor is a tough kid. He's a tough, hard-nosed running back, but he also starts at middle linebacker. He's a guy that hardly comes off the field. So it probably starts offensively with Isaac Barnes, but Maynard makes it go. And then when you got number 3 on the outside, you know, they're going to keep you honest, you know, in the passing game as well. So I think those 3 guys right there, you know, it's pretty scary to line up against because of what they do play after play after play. And then, like I said before, the intensity that they play with.
Well, there seems to be a Maynard, and every time you go to Soddy, there's a Maynard of some kind playing some sport, be it male or female. He, like you mentioned, he's a big running back as well as receiver and a middle linebacker and all that. Let's go back to Bradley here. We've been beat up and banged up for a long time. We've had some key defensive players, starters, miss games. We hoping to get some of those back this week. Will they sit out and come back from it then, or?
Well, it's kind of a combination. We got some guys coming back. Tucker Steele had a concussion last week, so he sat out. He'll be back. He's passed the protocol there. Tucker and Carpenter will be back. Probably still not 100%, but it's like I tell our players, look, at this point in the season, if you're not banged up, then you're not playing. You're standing on the sidelines. So
that's true.
Other players are going to deal with it too. We're not going to ever use injuries as an excuse. Now, the guys behind them on the depth chart, they practice just as hard, and they want their chance. And, you know, Trent Roberts last week, Rango's what we call him, but he went in and started at corner, and, man, he took advantage of his opportunity to give up a single, I don't think, maybe 1 or 2 passes, but he made the tackle right away. He played really well. So we feel like we got guys that if somebody's down, they can go in and make a play, and that's just the way it is. And I'm sure Soddy's not going to be completely healthy, and we're not completely healthy, and nobody we face will be the rest of the year. So it's time to just man up, and whoever's in, let's go and get it done. But it does have an effect, yes.
Yeah, well, we're all in the same boat. Like you mentioned, it ain't just our team, it's everybody's team that's got some bumps, bruises. And you're right, I hadn't thought about that way. If you're not bruised or banged up something, you're probably not playing hard enough. Right. You know, you're probably sitting over here on the bench watching the game. Well, it's not a region game, but it's our most important game simply because it's our next game, as you always say. And we need the Bear Nation there in force again Friday night down at Soddy-Daisy. It's an old foe. I think we're 24-14, so this will be our 39th game against them in the series. It goes back all the way back to 1948.
Yeah.
So we've been playing them off and on for many, many years. But it's just a backyard brawl, I guess you'd call it. But we need them all there Friday.
Soddy's always tough to play against.
Yep.
But when you play them at their place,
yep,
it's a little bit more difficult. So it'd be nice if we have a good crowd there for the Bears.
I think we will have. Well, folks, you've had it there. It's going to wrap us up on this week's interview with Coach Damon Floyd. Join us on the Buzz, 6 o'clock Friday night, live from Soddy-Daisy at the press box there. We'll have a pregame show with a coach interview, a player interview, and our award-winning football panel. And I hope you'll all be there to support the Bears. Until then, say good night, God bless, and go Bears.